Commander Laura Bennett stood at the observation deck of Station Aegis, her blue eyes reflecting the distant sparkle of stars. The massive structure floated silently in the Oort cloud, humanity's first and strongest line of defense against alien threats. Her fingers traced the cold glass as she watched the automated defense platforms perform their daily patrol routine. "Commander, the morning systems check is complete," reported Lieutenant Paul Adams from his station. "All quantum shields are operating at optimal capacity." Laura nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. 10 years of service on this station, and not a single breach. The Vixkari, those insectoid warriors who had first attacked Earth 15 years ago, had tried and failed countless times to penetrate their defenses. The station itself was a marvel of human engineering. 3 massive rings rotated slowly around a central core, housing over 5,000 personnel. Each ring bristled with weapon systems and shield generators. The outer hull, 12 meters thick, was made of reinforced quantum steel alloy that could withstand direct hits from antimatter weapons. "Bring up the long-range scans," Laura ordered, moving to the central command platform. The holographic display sprang to life, showing the vast empty space around them in perfect detail. Green dots indicated friendly vessels, supply ships, and patrol crafts. There hadn't been any red dots, marking hostile forces, in over 3 months. Chief Engineer Frank Miller approached her with a tablet in hand. "Commander, we finished upgrading the northeastern quadrant's shield matrix. The power efficiency has improved by 12%. "Good work, Frank," Laura said, taking the tablet and reviewing the numbers. "How are the new crew members adapting to their posts?" "Better than expected. That new weapons officer, Lisa Chen, she's particularly sharp. Caught a minor calibration error in turret section 7 that everyone else missed." The station's internal communication system chimed. "Commander Bennett to Medical Bay," came Dr. Alan White's voice. "Go ahead, Doctor. The quarterly health screenings are due. When can I expect you?" Laura checked her schedule. "I'll be there in 2 hours. Bennett out." She returned her attention to the main view. Station Aegis was more than just a fortress. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience and technological advancement. After the devastating first contact with the Vixkari, which had left much of South America in ruins, humanity had united like never before. Resources, technology, and the brightest minds from every nation had come together to build this guardian station. The artificial gravity shifted slightly as the station's rings adjusted their rotation. Laura walked to her private office, the door sliding open silently. On her desk sat a framed photo of Earth taken from the station's position, a beautiful blue marble floating in the black void. Next to it was a piece of Vixkari hull plating, a trophy from their last failed attack. "Status report from Ring 3, Commander," called out Officer Mary Woods over the comm. "We've detected some unusual stellar activity in Sector 7. Appears to be a natural phenomenon, but we're monitoring it." "Keep me updated," Laura replied. She pulled up the station's defensive schematics on her desk display. The latest upgrades had made an already formidable fortress even stronger. Multiple layers of shields, automated repair systems, and enough firepower to destroy a small moon, all controlled from this command center. As she reviewed the daily reports, Laura felt the familiar pride in her chest. Station Aegis represented the best of humanity. Their intelligence, their determination, and their ability to stand strong in the face of cosmic threats. The Vixkari had learned this the hard way, and any other hostile species would face the same harsh lesson. Little did she know, as she sat there reviewing reports and managing the station's daily operations, that humanity's greatest test wasn't their ability to build an impenetrable fortress. Soon, they would learn that true strength lay not in their walls, but in how they handled themselves when those walls came crumbling down. For now, though, Commander Laura Bennett continued her watch, confident in humanity's unbreakable shield among the stars. Communications Officer Kevin Mitchell rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the monitoring screens. The night shift was always quiet, But something felt different. His equipment had been picking up faint energy readings for the past 3 days, barely noticeable against the background noise of space. "You're seeing things again, Kevin," said Amanda Wells, the chief science officer, as she walked past his station with a cup of coffee. "Those readings are just cosmic background radiation. We've checked them twice already." But Kevin couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. 6 years of watching these screens had given him an instinct for patterns, and these weren't normal. The energy signatures would appear for exactly 2.7 seconds, then vanish, only to reappear hours later in a slightly different location. "Computer, display last week's anomaly record," he said, leaning forward. The screen filled with data points, each marking one of the strange energy bursts. When plotted together, they formed an arc, like something was moving in a calculated pattern just at the edge of their sensor range. The station hummed quietly around him as he worked. Most of the day shift crew had retired to their quarters, leaving the command center mostly empty. The soft blue glow from the screens reflected off the metal walls, creating an almost peaceful atmosphere. "Still at it?" Amanda asked, returning to his station. "Look, I know you're thorough, but there's such a thing as being too careful. The Vixcari aren't exactly subtle. When they show up, we know it." Kevin pulled up another screen. "That's just it. These readings, they're not the Vixcari. Their ships give off a distinct energy signature. This is something else." Amanda frowned and set down her coffee. Despite her earlier dismissal, something in Kevin's voice made her take a closer look. "Show me the pattern analysis." He brought up the data, pointing to specific peaks in the energy readings. "See these spikes? They're too regular to be natural. And look at the frequency. It's like nothing in our database." The science officer's expression grew more serious as she studied the readings. "Why didn't the automated systems flag this?" "Because each individual reading is too weak to trigger an alert," Kevin explained. "It's only when you look at them together that the pattern becomes clear." He pulled up a star chart, marking each location where the energy signatures had appeared. "Whatever this is, it's moving in a spiral pattern, getting gradually closer to the station." Amanda's coffee sat forgotten as she helped Kevin analyze the data. They worked in silence for several minutes, the only sound the soft beeping of the monitoring equipment. Suddenly, all of Kevin's screens flickered. A new energy signature appeared, stronger than the others. "There!" he exclaimed, fingers flying over the controls. "Same pattern, but the signal strength is 10 times higher." Amanda grabbed her tablet, running calculations. "This can't be right. If these readings are accurate, we're detecting some kind of phase-shifted energy field. But that's way beyond known technology." Kevin opened his mouth to respond, but a sudden alert cut him off. Multiple screens lit up with warning indicators. "Command Center, this is Outer Sensor Array 6, a voice crackled over the comm. "We're detecting massive gravitational distortions at the edge of our range." Kevin and Amanda shared a look of concern. The officer's earlier skepticism had vanished, replaced by growing worry. "Alert Commander Bennett," Amanda ordered, her voice tight. "Tell her we may have a situation." As the alert went out, Kevin couldn't help but think about all the times they'd dismissed these readings as background noise. They had grown so confident in their ability to detect threats that they'd almost missed something sitting right in front of them. The station's warning systems hadn't been designed to detect threats that moved this carefully, this patiently. Their mysterious observers, whoever they were, had found a blind spot in humanity's unbreakable fortress. And now, as new alerts began flooding in from other sensor arrays, Kevin Mitchell realized they were about to find out exactly what they'd been missing. Captain Daniel Carter stood rigid at his post as the unknown vessels emerged from what appeared to be folded space. The ships were unlike anything humanity had encountered before. Smooth, organic curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal, with no visible weapons or propulsion systems. "Count is now at 15 vessels," reported Officer Linda Foster from the tactical station. They're arranging themselves in a perfect hemisphere formation, keeping exactly 1 million kilometers from the station. Commander Bennett joined Daniel at the observation window. The alien ships gleamed with an inner light that shifted colors like oil on water. Their precise formation and careful distance spoke of advanced technology and disciplined coordination. "No aggressive moves?" she asked, though she could see the answer herself. "None," Daniel replied. "They're just waiting." Very different from the Vixcari's usual charge-in guns-blazing approach. The command center was unusually quiet. Everyone remembered their first contact with the Vixcari, how it had started with a brutal attack that no one saw coming. This time, they had warning, but somehow this calm display felt more unsettling. "We're receiving a transmission," Kevin announced from his communication station. "It's being broadcast on all frequencies, using basic mathematical sequences as a foundation." Commander Bennett straightened her uniform. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing what appeared to be a crystalline chamber. A tall, humanoid figure stood there, its skin shifting colors like its ships. When it spoke, its words were translated through patterns of light that rippled across its surface. "Station Aegis," the being said, its voice surprisingly melodious through the computer's translation. "We are the Nexari. We come seeking peaceful exchange." Daniel noticed how the alien's body language mimicked human gestures, a deliberate choice, he suspected, meant to put them at ease. Too deliberate. "I am Commander Laura Bennett of Earth's Defensive Forces," Laura responded. "Your approach was detected by our sensors. Why did you observe us in secret before making contact?" The Nexari being's colors shifted to deeper blues. "We believe in understanding before engaging. Your conflict with the Vixcari showed us the importance of careful first contact." "They've done their homework," Daniel whispered to Laura. She nodded slightly, keeping her attention on the screen. "We welcome peaceful exchange," Laura said carefully. "But you must understand our caution. Our last first contact resulted in war." The Nexari's colors brightened. "Of course, we propose a cultural exchange. Allow a small delegation to visit your station. In return, we will share our knowledge of fold space technology." Daniel watched the alien carefully. Its offer was generous. Too generous. Fold space technology would revolutionize human space travel. But something about this felt wrong. "Sir," Linda called out quietly, "our deep space scanners are having trouble maintaining lock on their ships. It's like their hulls are shifting somehow." Commander Bennett kept her expression neutral. "We appreciate your offer. However, our security protocols require a gradual approach to such exchanges. Perhaps we could begin with—" "Of course," the Nexari interrupted smoothly. "We understand completely. We will maintain our current position while you consider our proposal. Take all the time you need." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. "Well, they're polite," Officer Foster said. "Almost too polite." Daniel turned to Laura. "Commander, something feels off. The Vixcari attacked because they saw us as inferior. These Nexari, they're acting like they're doing us a favor by being here." Laura nodded slowly. "Keep all defensive systems at full power, but do not make any aggressive moves. I want detailed scans of those ships, whatever readings we can get." As the crew carried out their orders, Daniel couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The Nexari were everything the Vixcari weren't: calm, diplomatic, reasonable. And that's exactly what worried him. Because in his experience, when something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. The question was, what were the Nexari really after? The alien ships continued their silent watch, their surfaces rippling with colors that seemed to mock the station's powerful defenses. The game had begun, but only one side knew all the rules. Security Chief Michelle Ross frowned at her diagnostic screen. For the third time this week, the quantum shield readings showed tiny fluctuations, drops in power so small they barely registered on the monitors. "Run the scan again," she ordered her computer. The results came back the same. Something was interfering with the shield grid, but the system couldn't identify what. She pulled a handheld scanner from her belt and walked to the nearest shield generator. The massive machine hummed with power, its crystalline core pulsing with blue light. As she ran the scanner over its surface, tiny specks of movement caught her eye. "Computer, maximum magnification on section C7," she said, her heart beginning to race. The screen zoomed in, and what she saw made her blood run cold. Microscopic machines, smaller than dust particles, were crawling through the generator's outer casing. Nanites, and they were everywhere. "Security team to generator room 4, now," she barked into her comm. "And someone get me Commander Bennett." Within minutes, the room was filled with security personnel. Commander Bennett arrived with Captain Carter close behind. "Show me," Laura ordered. Michelle pulled up the magnified images on the main screen. "They're in all the generators, Commander. These nanites are so small they slipped right through our sensor nets. They've been taking the shields apart at the molecular level." "How long?" Laura's voice was tight with concern. "Based on the degradation pattern, they've been here for weeks, probably since before the Nexari arrived." Michelle zoomed in further. "Look at their design. They're changing shape to match whatever material they're breaking down." Daniel Carter stepped closer to the screen. "The Nexari ships, their hulls were shifting too. It's the same technology." "Their peaceful approach was a distraction," Michelle said, anger creeping into her voice. "While we were focused on their ships, these things were already inside our defenses." A junior officer ran into the room. "Chief Ross, we're finding nanites in other systems, weapons, communications, life support. They're everywhere." Laura's face hardened. "Sound General Quarters. I want every crew member checking their stations for signs of these things. Engineering needs to find a way to stop them." "What about our guests?" Daniel asked, nodding toward the window where the Nexari ships still hung in space. "Keep acting normal," Laura ordered. "If they realize we've discovered their infiltration." An alarm suddenly blared through the station. Michelle's screen filled with red warnings as shield generators across the station began failing. "They know," she said grimly. "The nanites just switched from infiltration to attack mode." Through the window, they could see the Nexari ships beginning to move. Their perfect formation shifted, spreading out to surround the station. "Get me shipwide," Laura commanded. When the channel opened, her voice rang through every compartment of Station Aegis. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Michelle watched in horror as her security screens showed the nanites accelerating their work. Systems were failing faster than they could track. The mighty fortress of humanity was being eaten alive from the inside out. "How could we miss this?" Daniel asked, watching as another shield generator went dark. "Because we were looking for an attack," Michelle replied bitterly. "Not an infection." Around them, Station Aegis, humanity's unbreakable shield, was breaking. Not from the outside force they'd expected, but from millions of tiny invaders that had slipped through every crack in their armor. The Nexari had never needed to break down their door. They'd simply picked the lock, one molecule at a time. As emergency crews scrambled to respond and weapons powered up, Michelle Ross realized a hard truth. Sometimes the greatest threats weren't the ones you could see coming. Sometimes they were the ones that were already inside, waiting for the right moment to strike. The real battle for Station Aegis was just beginning, and they were already losing. Engineer Peter Wright felt the entire station shudder as another shield generator exploded. Around him, emergency lights cast red shadows across panicked faces as crew members rushed through the corridors. "Primary shield grid is completely down," someone shouted from the engineering bay. "Secondary grid failing at 60%. Peter watched his diagnostic screens with growing horror. The nanites had spread through the station's systems like a virus, turning their own technology against them. Shield generators weren't just failing. They were detonating, creating gaps in their defenses. All hands, brace for impact. Commander Bennett's voice rang through the station. Through the nearest viewport, Peter saw the first Nexeri ship open fire. Their weapons weren't the crude energy beams of the Vixkeri. They fired streams of the same shape-shifting material as their hulls, which ate through the station's armor like acid. They're using the same technology as the nanites, Peter realized, speaking into his comm. Commander, they're not trying to destroy the station. They're absorbing it. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut throughout the station as sections began to decompress. The mighty quantum steel hull that had withstood countless Vixkeri attacks was now dissolving before their eyes. Engineering team, fall back to secondary control, Peter ordered, helping the younger engineer to her feet as another explosion rocked the station. Bring whatever portable equipment you can carry. The Nexeri ships had completely surrounded them now. Their surfaces rippled and flowed, extending tendrils that attached to the station's hull. Where they connected, the metal simply melted away. Peter reached secondary control and immediately began rerouting critical systems. The station's automated defenses were useless. The nanites had compromised their targeting computers. Weapon turrets fired randomly into space or not at all. Right to command, he called out. We need to purge the system. Complete shutdown and restart might clear the nanites from our computers. Negative, Commander Bennett replied, her voice tight with strain. Life support is compromised. If we shut down now, we lose atmospheric control station-wide. Another violent shake threw Peter against a console. Looking at his screens, he finally understood the terrible truth. The Nexeri hadn't needed to break their defenses. Humanity's own pride had done that for them. They'd built their fortress stronger and stronger, never considering that an enemy might find a way to turn that strength into weakness. Multiple hull breaches on levels 3 through 7. A voice called out over the general channel. We're losing structural integrity. Through the chaos, Peter noticed something strange. The Nexeri's attack, while devastating, was following a pattern. They weren't destroying sections randomly. They were cutting specific paths through the station. Commander, he called out, they're heading for the central core. Whatever they're after, it's in there. But it was too late. Station Aegis, humanity's greatest achievement, was falling apart around them. The impenetrable fortress had been penetrated not by brute force, but by patience and cunning. All personnel, begin emergency evacuation procedures. Commander Bennett's voice was calm despite the situation. This is not a drill. Proceed to your designated escape pods immediately. Peter helped coordinate the evacuation from his position, watching as system after system failed. The mighty shield generators, the advanced weapon systems, the reinforced hull, all of it useless against an enemy that had simply slipped through the cracks. As he made his way to his own escape pod, Peter Wright took one last look at the engineering bay where he'd spent so many years. The Nexeri ships continued their methodical dismantling of the station, their victory absolute and unstoppable. Station Aegis had fallen, and with it, humanity's illusion of invincibility. They had built their fortress to withstand any attack, never realizing that their enemy would choose not to break in, but to dissolve the very walls they'd trusted to keep them safe. The real question now was, what were the Nexeri really after, and what would it mean for Earth? Lieutenant John Martinez led his team through the smoke-filled corridors of Station Aegis's central core. Emergency lighting flickered, casting strange shadows as they moved. Behind them, the sounds of the station's death echoed. Metal tearing, explosions, and a haunting hiss of nanites consuming everything in their path. Team 2, status report. He called into his comm unit. Static answered him. Another team lost. Sir, Private Betty Smith called out, checking her scanner. The Nexeri are converging on the core from 3 directions. Whatever they're after, it's here. Commander Bennett's voice crackled through their comms. Lieutenant, you must hold the core at all costs, at least until the civilian evacuation is complete. Understood, Commander, John replied. He turned to his remaining squad. Just 6 people now, where there had been 20 just hours ago. Set up defensive positions. We hold this line. They worked quickly, placing portable shield generators at key points. These were independent units, so far untouched by the nanite infection. It wouldn't stop the Nexari for long, but it might buy them precious minutes. Through a viewport, John saw the true scale of their defeat. The outer rings of Station Aegis were already half dissolved, consumed by the Nexari ships. The station's mighty weapons hung silent and useless. "Sir," Betty called out, "I'm picking up unusual energy readings from behind that bulkhead." She pointed to a sealed door none of them had clearance to open. Before John could respond, Commander Bennett's voice came through again. "Lieutenant, listen carefully. Behind that door is a prototype wormhole generator. We think that's what they're after. It cannot fall into their hands." The revelation hit John hard. A wormhole generator. No wonder the Nexari had gone to such lengths to infiltrate the station. With that technology, they could strike anywhere in the galaxy instantly. "Contact!" Someone shouted. The first wave of Nexari appeared at the end of the corridor, their bodies flowing like liquid metal, adapting to any obstacle in their path. "Open fire," John ordered. Energy weapons blazed, but the Nexari simply absorbed or deflected the shots. Their advance was slow but unstoppable. Betty worked frantically at a control panel. "Sir, I'm trying to overload the core's power grid." "Maybe we can." A massive explosion rocked the station. John grabbed a support beam to stay upright. "Report." "They're through the outer defenses," Betty answered. "Multiple breaches. They're coming from all sides now." John watched as his team fought bravely, but it was like trying to fight a flood with their bare hands. The Nexari moved like water, flowing around obstacles, seeping through every crack. "Evacuation is at 80%, Commander Bennett informed them. "Just a few more minutes." Those minutes felt like hours. One by one, John's team fell back, giving ground inch by inch. Their portable shields flickered and died as nanites found their way into the systems. "Sir," Betty called out, her voice steady despite everything. "Core overload is ready, but someone has to stay to trigger it manually." John looked at his remaining team members, then at the advancing Nexari. He made his decision. "All of you, fall back to the escape pods. That's an order." When they hesitated, he barked, "Now." As his team retreated, John moved to the control panel. The Nexari were close now, their bodies shifting and flowing toward him like a silver tide. "Commander," he said into his comm, "get our people out. I'll make sure they don't get what they came for." He could hear Laura Bennett's pain as she replied, "Understood, Lieutenant. It's been an honor." John Martinez stood alone in humanity's failing fortress, watching the Nexari approach. They had come expecting to find humanity's weakness. Instead, they would learn about its strength, not in its walls or weapons, but in the courage of those who defended them. His hand hovered over the overload control. The Nexari were meters away now. He waited until the last possible moment, determined to take as many of them with him as he could. "For Earth," he whispered, and pressed the button. Dr. Sarah Thompson stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her hands steady as she delivered her report. The massive chamber was packed with military leaders and government officials, all still reeling from the fall of Station Aegis 3 weeks ago. The sacrifice of Lieutenant Martinez and his team prevented the Nexari from capturing the wormhole generator, she explained, her voice clear in the quiet room. However, the price was steep. We lost over 200 personnel, and humanity's strongest defensive position is gone. Commander Bennett sat in the front row, her uniform still bearing her station insignia. She had insisted on keeping it as a reminder. Next to her, the few surviving senior officers listened intently. "But we learned something valuable," Sarah continued, changing the display behind her. "The Nexari showed us that bigger walls don't make better defenses. Their nanite technology proved that any static defense can be overcome with enough patience and cunning." She brought up designs for a new defense system. This is Project Hydra. Instead of building one massive fortress, we propose a network of smaller mobile stations. Like living cells, they can adapt, move, and even sacrifice parts of themselves without compromising the whole system. The council chamber filled with murmurs. It was a radical departure from their previous strategy of building bigger, stronger fortifications. "The Nexari taught us a hard lesson," Sarah said, her voice growing stronger. "They showed us that true strength isn't in how hard we can make our walls, but in how quickly we can adapt when those walls fail." Commander Bennett stood up. "Dr. Thompson is right. We built Station Aegis thinking it made us safe, but our own pride blinded us. We never considered that an enemy might take their time, study us, and use our own strength against us." The room grew quiet as Laura walked to the front. The survivors brought back valuable data about Nexari technology. Their nanites were advanced, yes, but not unstoppable. The real problem was our own inflexibility, our belief that what worked yesterday would work tomorrow. Sarah brought up another display, showing the proposed defense network. Each station in the Hydra network will be equipped with adaptive shields and self-repairing systems. More importantly, they'll be designed to evolve, to learn from every attack, and share that knowledge with the entire network. The council members looked at the designs with growing interest. It was a complete reversal of their previous philosophy. Instead of building walls too strong to break, they would build defenses too flexible to pin down. "The Nexari are still out there," Sarah reminded them. "And there may be other species watching us, learning from our mistakes. We need to show them that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our fortifications. It's our ability to learn and adapt." She looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. "Station Aegis fell because we thought we were unbreakable. Let's not make that mistake again. Instead, let's build something that doesn't need to be unbreakable, because it can always rebuild itself stronger than before." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some opposed such a dramatic change, but most saw the wisdom in it. The fall of Station Aegis had shaken their confidence, but from those ashes, something new was rising. As the council debated, Sarah looked at her designs again. The Hydra network wouldn't just defend Earth. It would grow, learn, and evolve, just like humanity itself had always done. Commander Bennett joined her at the display. "They thought our fortress was unbreakable," she said quietly. "Next time, we'll show them something better. A defense that bends but never breaks, that learns from every defeat and grows stronger." Sarah nodded, watching as her ideas took root in humanity's future. The fall of Station Aegis had taught them humility, but it had also shown them a new path forward. Sometimes, the harshest lessons led to the greatest growth. And somewhere out in the darkness of space, the Nexari would learn that they hadn't broken humanity's spirit. They had only forced it to evolve.